Alright. Hello everybody. Zodiac here. Tonight, I decided to do a little bit of a vlog. Why would I be doing a vlog this late at night, you might ask? Well, people in certain communities think that some people don't know what they're talking about, and most of the time, they have that very much in the correctly. But in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, a community which I've been a part of on and off for about, 15, 16 years now. I've been playing on and off since about 2003. And I've seen all sorts of trends come and go, seen what Konami's done with the ban list, so on and so forth. Now you might ask yourself, if I've been playing for as long as I have, then why have I not shown up on national circuits or anything, or why I haven't gone to any events or anything? Well, there's a very simple reason for that, and I'm going to share that. But first, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about the main reason I'm making this video for you. You see, on Facebook, there's this fairly sizable group on Facebook known as Zodiac Duelist, run by MCO40 and a few other big Yu-Gi tubers. And of course, it's ban list season, so everybody and their mother is posting their own rough estimations of what they think the ban list is going to be, and some people are going off their own intuition, and other people like me are just going based off trends of what Konami has done in the past. Well, the other day, or a few days ago, I posted my own video, or my own Banlist Prediction, and I thought, hey, most people think, okay, the main couple decks of the format right now are Orchest, Variants, mind you, Danger Thunder Dragon, Sky Striker, Salamangreats. With Orchest, they're not going, generally speaking, Konami does not hit decks because, well, let's just put it this way. Konami doesn't hit decks right away after releasing them, with the exception of a few cases like Pepe and Dad Return and the random upper deck banning of Cyberstein. But generally speaking, they don't really hit decks directly so soon after they were released. Generally what they do with those decks is that they'll hit them indirectly. So, in my list, I stated, I didn't necessarily call for any banned cards, but I did say that if something were to get hit, it's probably going to be Nightmare Mermaid. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I not talking about Rusty Bardiche? Here's the thing with Rusty that I don't think a lot of people actually understand. And this goes for Orchest in general, because Orchests are the one mainly abusing the card right now. Yes, you can play it in PK Fire, but what is PK Fire doing at the moment? So, you have everybody so up in arms about Rusty because Orchest is everywhere. Well, what's the card that's enabling our Orchest to be everywhere? Nightmare Mermaid. So if you get rid of Nightmare Mermaid, you really have no need to hit Rusty. People say, and then in my Zodiac post, everybody was up in arms about, oh, it's a 4-negate card, but is it really, though, when you think about it? I mean, come on. Double Fog Blade, Dingirsu, and then itself. Yes, that's technically 4 negades, but then you have to realize people are already either maining or side decking Twin Twisters almost for pretty much every matchup at this point. You have Salad, who has a bunch of traps. Sky Striker is a deck that plays a lot of back row. I guess you can even throw Altergeist into the mix because they've topped one or two nationals at this point. So generally speaking, people are already either maining or siding Twin Twisters in their decks. So that, as long as you draw your Twin Twisters or whatever back row hit you want, you have the Fog Blaze taken care of. Now, Dingirsu. Obviously, that's a powerful card in its own right, and I can get where people are coming from with this one, and that Rusty enables Orcus to bring that out. But here's the thing. If you get rid of Rusty from the equation, then you essentially eliminate the viability of any sort of PK Fire / Burning Abyss deck in the future. Yes, Burning Abyss have Cherubini now, but for PK Fire to work nowadays, they need Rusty. And that's what people generally are not understanding here. So, moving on from the bans. Essentially, the two cards of topic right now are Nightmare Mermaid and Rusty Bardiche. Other than that, there's nothing really I can see that Konami might even consider banning right now. Now, for limits, in my list, I focused on hitting the meta decks mostly in some way, with the exception of Orcus, because, as I said, Konami doesn't tend to ban cards so soon after their release. So I dealt with the other main hitters of the format. For Sky Striker, I put multi-roll to 1. Now, people were saying, in my Zodiac post, I said, Sky Strikers are bordering on Blackwing territory. Now, for those of you newer players who don't get that concept, essentially what I mean by that is back in the day when Blackwings were running amok back in like 2010, 2011-ish, let's just say, early part of this current decade. Konami was hitting Blackwings of the ban list numerous times, and the deck was still topping. And it got to a point where Konami was pretty much sick and tired of the deck topping, so what did they do? They straight out killed the deck. At the time. If I remember correctly, they did Blackwing Gale to 1, Kalute to 1, Black Whirl 1 to 1. And at the time, that essentially killed the deck. So what is Sky Striker in the situation at the moment? They have Hornet Drones at 1. They have Kagari at 1. Okay, but even with one Kagari, they're still doing things. So what else do you hit here? Either you hit multi-roll, or you hit Widow Anchor. Now, personally to me, I see multi-roll as the more problematic card. Yes, Widow Anchor is a negate, but for all intents and purposes, multi-roll is just one of those cards that it's almost like it's too good for its own archetype, just like Spellbook Judgment was. Now, I'm not saying that its multi-roll is as good as Salt Judgment was in its own format, but it's generally speaking a more it's a card too good for its own archetype, let's just put it that way. So for cards like that, you could also say the same thing for cards like Gateway of the Six, where you have this ridiculously good overpowered card in an archetype that, generally speaking, doesn't have very many power plays. And while I'm not saying that's necessarily true for Sky Striker, of course they can go into all these ridiculous boards and stuff, but generally speaking, if you get off a multi-roll to its peak, you're pretty much guaranteed to win 9 times out of 10. Like, what is your opponent going to do about that? So I said multi-roll to 1. And people were up in arms about, what is this notion about like the deck's been around for too long? Like, generally speaking, Konami doesn't want a deck to be around for too long, otherwise they can't sell product. So that's why they try to hit decks the best they can on the ban list. So multi-roll to 1. Put it to 1, be done with Sky Striker, and be done with it. Next up we have Danger Thunder. Now, for Danger Thunder, I did sort of a multi-hit. I hit Danger, and I hit Thunder Dragons. For Thunder Dragons, I put Colossus to 1. Now, everybody was bashing me for this, and I want to clear up a little bit about this, because who thinks it's okay to have a card that's a easily spammable monster that's a walking mistake? Like, Mistake itself is a floodgate, and everybody hates Floodgate, yet Thunder Dragon Colossus is okay? How does that make any sense? So, Colossus to 1. You make it less spammable. You only give the deck one of them. It's less of an issue. Now for the dangers. You have Jackalope, Tsuchinoko, Nessie, and, well, you get my point here. You hit the main dangers, you solve the problem. I think you get where I'm going with this. In some way, shape, or form, dangers need to be hit. Whether or not you want to believe it. Just like Dragon Rulers were a problem in their day, dangers are becoming more of a problem in this day and age. And to be brutally honest with you, dangers just need to go. So hit the 4 main ones, you're done. Get rid of the 4 main dangers, put them all to 1, and we all rest happily ever after. Now, Salamangreat. This one is a little bit tricky. Yes, everybody's saying Gazelle to 1. We already have Lady Debug at 1, and I can completely see where they're coming from with Gazelle. But then you have to think about their extra deck. Yes, you get rid of Gazelle, but what does that exactly do to the deck? Does that just hit its consistency? Does it limit its power plays? Or is it just one or the other? Personally, I think it's just a consistency hit. And generally speaking, consistency hits generally don't kill a deck. Look at Necros, for example. Up until recently, they had Brionic, Shred, and Necro or Unicore all on the ban list in some shape or form. Shirt and Unicore are still there, but Brionic just recently went up the list. For them to get rid of that deck, I should also mention Djinn, which nobody cares about. That was a degenerate piece of bullshit in its own right, so let's forget about that. But Unicore, Brionic, Shred, they had to hit 3 main pieces to that deck for that deck to stop topping. Okay, let's look at another example where they had to hit both consistency and power, at least at the time of when it was hit. We have to go back a little bit for this one, actually. And it kind of baffles me that this card is still banned. For what reason? Or up until recently, these cards were still on the ban list. Let's talk about windups for a second. Okay, way back in the days of early 2012, like early to late 2012, or let's just blanket 2012 here. You had windups. Okay, you had the windup Shark Magician loop. I get it. And then you had Hunter in the mix there that caused a hand loop. And you had Zen Mighty thrown in there, who was their be-all, end-all, best Exceed monster in the deck at the time, which at the time made sense to hit because nobody wanted to see shenanigans like that, where you could essentially loop Magician, Shark, and throw a Hunter in there every once in a while, and you got a hand loop. That I kind of understand. That's kind of a little bit stupid, if you ask me. But here's the thing about that. They put Magician to 1, which at the time, well, they hit Magician to 1. Then right at the beginning of Dragon River format, they banned Zen Mighty, which at the time, I guess everybody was thinking, okay, they just want to get rid of windups. But here's the thing. You're not exactly solving the problem there. You see where I'm going here? Like, yes, you hit Zen Mighty, but you still have Hunter in the deck just waiting for another card to abuse it. If you release any sort of card that allows that card to be abused in the future, then what good did banning Zen Mighty actually do? So, case in point here. Generally speaking, you have to hit both power and consistency in a deck for it to die. And so, with Danger Thunder, Colossus, probably its best extra deck monster. And it is generally the only one you really see in Danger Thunder these days, so put that to 1. It's not as degenerate as it is when it's at 3. You hit them 4 main dangers, then you don't have them as a problem. Now for spells, I have Harpy's Feather Duster getting unbanned. And here's the thing about Harpy's Feather Duster, that people generally seem to not really get why people like me are saying Harpy's Feather Duster would be the better bet than Heavy Storm. Pendulum decks are a thing. They've been a thing for a couple of years now. And the reason the OCG has Harpy's Feather Duster instead of Heavy Storm is because pendulum decks were abusing Heavy Storm to blow up their own scales. You see where I'm going with this? In a world where pendulums are a thing, you can't exactly have Heavy Storm around, so what do you bring back? Harpy's Feather Duster. You bring back Harpy's Feather Duster. It's a one-sided, back in the day when it was banned, a one-sided spell and track mass removal made sense to go away. But nowadays, we have more potent back row removal, to put it bluntly. You have things like, or at least more easily accessible options. Or rather, you don't want to know, let's just put it this way. Twin Twisters, quick play. Cosmic Cyclone, quick play. MST, quick play. Harpy's Feather Duster, normal trap. Or rather, normal spell. The one of Harpy's Feather Duster doesn't do much in today's meta. Because with each deck having its own themed solemn judgment, so to speak, Harpy's Feather Duster isn't nearly as potent in today's meta as it was way back when. So, and we also have Solemn Judgment at 1 right now, so that adds to the list of cards. But if you're really so scared of that, and you're not in a deck that has a themed removal, then just play something like Starlight Road or the Huge Revolution is over. That, if you're going to be playing a back row deck, and generally speaking, if you're playing a heavy back row deck, you're going to have some sort of spell and trap negation anyway, so I don't see why this is exactly a problem. And there's also that factor where back in the day when Heavy Storm was legal, there was this thing that I like to call the Heavy Storm effect, where you had to be very careful with how much back row you put on the field. Otherwise, if you put too much, you're going to get blown up by a Heavy Storm. And to a certain extent, that still holds true today. What if you don't open your back row? What if you don't open your, or don't get to your negate? What do you do then? Like, it's still a blowout card, but not nearly as badly as it was, like, say 15 years ago. Let's just blanket 15 years ago, because I think it was banned like 2004. It's 2019. And then to 2, Deep Sea Diva. I didn't really see too much hate against this, but I figured I'd mention this because Deep Sea Diva is a very contentious card when it comes to Mermaid Atlanteans. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, what is Diva doing at 1 when synchros are not being hardly used anymore in a deck that only has 1, maybe 2 good tuners? And Diva's at 1 still? Yes, it summons out Neptibus. And Neptibus in itself is a very powerful card. But honestly, what the hell is Mermaid Atlanteans doing at the moment? Like, has anybody seen anybody play Mermaid Atlanteans on a large scale in a while now? Like, really? Who in their right mind's playing Mermaid Atlanteans right now? And even if they are, like, they generally speaking aren't running any synchros, so what the point? And they're only using it to tutor out Neptibus, which is a fair point. But here's the thing. The main reason people are upset about moving up Deep Sea Diva is mainly because there's this thing on the horizon over the sea called Crystron Needle Fiber. Now, we don't have that yet. and Mermail's just got their own Link monster. People are calling it shit, and I tend to agree with them, even though I play Mermails from time to time myself. But, generally speaking, Abyssalacia isn't exactly the best card, but it still has its uses, so most Mermail players do use it. Then, without Needle Fiber, why exactly is Diva a problem in a deck where the deck isn't even doing anything? I mean, come on here. Are we really still going on about we don't know when we're getting Needle Fiber, so just keep it at 1? But here's the thing about Needle Fiber. Needle Fiber is going to be a problem no matter when it gets released. Like, it doesn't matter if Deep Sea Diva is an enabler or not. It in itself is a broken card. So generally speaking, we have a thing where we have something where, so the deck, so why are we scapegoating a card that in a deck that's not topping, it's not doing anything, and it's essentially best setup card? Why are we scapegoating it? Put it up to 2. Now, I can understand why people wouldn't want it at 3, but at 2, I don't think we're going to have a massive problem with it. Now, the other 2 cards I put to 2 were Solemn Judgment and Solemn Warning. Now, the OCG did this a while back. On their most recent ban list, they put Judgment to 3. Now, honestly here, I don't see a problem with this. And I don't think most people will. Most people think that these are falling out of favor, and I can kind of see why. And I don't think I need to touch on that too much further. And for unlimits, I'm just going to say this. The unlimited section for Konami's ban lists are so unpredictable, you never know what they're going to unlimit. Nor do you ever know what they're going to unban. So it's kind of hard to predict what they're going to either unban or unlimit. But if you look at the semi-limits at the moment, there's not really a whole lot of options for you to unlimit at the moment. Like, you can't do Necrophase. That would just be a problem. And generally speaking, everything else in itself can't be put to 3 either. So what exactly do you put to 3? I'm going to leave it at that. On a side note, to end the video, I want to point out a deck that I'm surprised nobody's even thought about as far as, like, anti-meta choices, so to speak. Counter Fairies. Like, you have a deck where you can run a 1-card Link 4 engine in Agent of Venus and 3 Shine Balls. You can tutor that out with Valhalla Hall of Fallen and not waste your normal summon. Valhalla Hall of the Summon is searchable by another fairy card. If you really want to, you can run a full agent. You can run an agent engine of 1 Earth, 2 Venus, 2 or 3 Uranus, and Master Hyperion. Now you might be wondering, why the hell would you run Master Hyperion? Well, let's see. It's free removal, essentially. Yes, you need an agent on the field, but, well, rather you need agents to do it. So you run that mini little engine there, you get your boss monster. Great. You also get a 1-card Link 4. You also have a deck. Oh, excuse me. You also have a deck where they can run all these floodgates if they really want to. Like, they have... And Guiding Ariadne is also a card I don't think people realize still exists. So for this deck, they can play all these counter traps, and they don't have to pay the cost for them. You see where I'm going with this? A deck that can easily spam out Link monsters, has several good boss monsters, and plays a ton of, can play both floodgates and a bunch of counter traps. And it can also play Card Demise, can play Pot of Duality, you can play, heck, even if you wanted to throw this in there, you could even play fucking Pot of Dichotomy if you really want to, but who the fuck plays that nowadays? I mean, who the hell has ever played Pot of Dichotomy? But the point is, you could play that. You could probably play Desires in there as well, but I don't think you'd want to, because you have too many cards of 1s and 2s, and you could potentially ban us all of them. So Pot of Desires isn't necessarily the best idea there either. Nor would you want to play Extravagance in the deck, since if you're playing this deck with the Venus engine, you're going to want the Link monsters in your extra deck. So where do we go from here? Counter Fairies are a deck where I feel like if somebody were to build the deck right and were to, under the right circumstances, probably could do well with it. And I don't think people realize just exactly what the deck can actually do. And I want to end on that. I feel like people are underrating Counter Fairies, or rather not even thinking about it. Like, it has its own structure deck. You can get the cards really cheaply. Like, I feel like it's a good budget stun option for Worlds, if you really wanted to look into it. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, there's much better stun options like Altergeist, but here's the thing. There's always been a problem with Altergeist, and I think we all know what that is. It is very much reliant on a few cards, whereas Counter Fairies have a bunch of ways of getting to their key components. So I want to leave it at that. People, let's just end it here. Look, for those of you who aren't looking into Counter Fairies, I suggest you do, because if you don't, you might not live to see the day. Otherwise, somebody might pull it on you and you might not be prepared. Just fair warning. I don't think anybody's going to see it coming if you were to pull it at either a national qualifier, or heck, even if somebody were to take it to Worlds, I doubt anybody would see it coming. So let's end it there. This is Zodiac, and my final words to you are, if you want to call somebody an idiot based on their predictions, based on Konami trends, make sure you back them up with proper knowledge, because generally speaking, these people don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. Alright, Zodiac out.